watching Fox 11 News Special Report.
And good evening and welcome to a special edition of the Fox 11 News Special Report. I'm Elex Michaelson reporting live from City Hall tonight.
And I'm Marla Tellez. Of course, the big story tonight, LA Mayor Eric Garcetti is President Biden's pick for ambassador to India. And Alex, you got the interview.
That's right. We spoke with the mayor at City Hall not long ago. Of course, this pick to be ambassador to India is something that's been rumored about for months. Joe Biden first brought up the idea with Eric Garcetti several months ago, but just yesterday he made the final call saying that you are indeed the pick. Here's some of what the mayor had to say. Describe the phone call. What happened?
Well, the phone call yesterday was just from the White House. It wasn't from the president, but I saw him last Friday and we talked. And it was almost a couple months ago that he first reached out. And until you've gotten a phone call from the president asking you to serve the nation, you don't know what that's going to be like. But I've always said you answer that phone call, no matter who you are. And let alone with somebody you're a close friend of, big supporter of. And, you know, I love this president. I love what he's doing. I campaigned hard to help him win the White House. And when he called and he said, I need you, I kind of stopped in my tracks because I'm 24/7 focused on LA, figuring I'm running through the tape till the very last day. But he called me 2 days in a row and I realized how important this position was. And he asked if I'd be considered. And after talking with my family, I said, okay, I'm okay with being considered. And then yesterday I got the call that it was official and I accepted. And if confirmed, it would mean some months from now that I would officially become the United States ambassador to India and begin a new chapter of my life.
And you're committed to serving here until you're confirmed, which could be several months.
150%. And I think a lot of people hear the announcement today, they're like, oh, he's gone.
Right.
I'm showing up tomorrow, I'm showing up next week, I'm showing up next month. It takes some months for the confirmation process to play out, and if confirmed, I wouldn't be leaving till sometime in the fall.
So I know we talked in December, and there was this thought of you might serve the administration. At the time you said no to calls.
Yes.
Why now? Why not then?
Back then, I was clear, and luckily the call never came, so I never had to listen to the president trying to get me out of this job. But I think he understood, and I was very clear. This was the city's toughest moment in our history. People were filling up the hospitals. My daughter was sick with COVID. I could see people dying. I was talking to families every single day. And I would never think twice about abandoning the city in the midst of its toughest moment. Now we're 99% lower with our COVID. Our economy is back and open. We're seeing the strongest budget after having a deficit that we are looking over the cliff at. Fill our coffers, strongest reserve fund, a justice budget. I feel very good about where the city is. Even though our challenges are still around us, right, it's inevitable that that progress will come. And so I felt that when the president asked, I could in good conscience consider that and now accept that nomination.
Let's get a little more into the issues of the city in a second.
Sure.
But first question, though, about this job itself.
Yep.
When I think of you, I think of Mexico because of your father. I think maybe Israel because being a Jew. Right. I don't think India when I see Eric Garcetti. Why India? And what do you bring to India?
Well, you'd have to ask the president what his thinking is. But you know, this is one of the top handful of countries and relationships. Our oldest democracy in the world is the United States. The largest democracy in the world is India. It's going to be the most populous country in about 5 years in the world. And I actually have a deep history with India since traveling there as a teenager. In college, my college roommate's father became the U.S. ambassador to India. So I've stayed at the embassy and spent time there. I studied Hindi and Urdu in college. I studied the religion and culture of India. I've gone there for the Asia Society and other things. So it's actually been a strong current in my life. But I think the president, he wanted somebody close, who the Indians could see was close with him, who can really represent our nation in India and importantly represent India's interests or the things that they want to communicate to the president directly.
And the whole family moves with you there?
They would. I don't know if they would initially, depending on the situation of COVID, but yeah, I'm not going without my family, and it would be an adventure for all of us.
So let's talk about LA, though. I know you're proud of a lot of aspects of your legacy, and I know you're proud of a lot of the work that's been done when it comes to homelessness, but there are still so many challenges.
Yes, there are.
Outside the door, right here at City Hall, there's a tent encampment right here. I mean, there's tents all over the place. Objectively, How can you say that homelessness was a success? I mean, isn't what's happened with homelessness in LA a failure?
No, I don't look at it as success or failure. I look at it as a challenge, and one in which we've made tremendous progress. $10 million was being spent on homelessness when I started. This year we'll see $1 billion.
Right.
We got the state to put $12 billion down on top of that. The tens of thousands of lives that we have not only changed but saved in this city, I mean, it does look like probably a big pile of dirt out there, you know,
right.
when you think about homelessness. That would be a pile 2 or 3 times bigger. If we hadn't had voters pass Measure H, we're about to see 11,000 units of homeless housing. That's 1,000 more than we promised, 2 years earlier than we promised, for $15,000 less per unit. But you know, I've worked on homelessness since I was 14 here. Until we get serious as a nation, the city of LA will never solve homelessness. We need a housing policy and a mental health policy in this country that guarantees that local governments aren't picking up the pieces of the failures of years and years past. I was out in Venice this morning. You know, we've housed nearly 100 people in just 2 weeks. So I know we know how to do this, but that was months of planning, budgeting, and you know, you have to then make sure those folks don't just come right back, that they're actually in housing and getting the health care that they need.
But you know, there's a lot of people that'll see this and say, look, we've spent all this extra money, a lot of that construction has moved slow, and there's still so many homeless people that say, I don't want the housing, I don't want to do that, and they're still on the street.
I understand those frustrations, but I also know the only way to solve homelessness is to get people the care and the housing that they need. There really is no other magic formula. And I've heard many people saying, oh, what we're doing must be wrong because they're still out there. No, what we're doing is not enough. We've never had the level of funding, which is why I convinced this president as a candidate to make housing a human right. Think about, if you and I are hungry, we get food stamps, no matter how many of us there are. If you and I don't have health care, we get Medi-Cal, Medicaid. But if you and I need housing, 1 in 8 people currently in this city get a federal subsidy for housing, a Section 8 voucher. We need to make that 8 out of 8, and then we could see an end to homelessness.
What do you think's what are you most proud of your time as mayor?
I'm so proud of the collective work that we've done. I mean, first and foremost, just this past year, this pandemic was something we never hoped for, never wanted, but to see this city, it was our saddest moment, but it was our strongest moment by far. It was our most tragic time, but it was also our most triumphant time. And the way we stepped forward and masked up and got the testing and the vaccinations, we didn't ask permission, we didn't know where the money would come from, we didn't know if Washington would step up. That's probably one of our proudest moments. But then second, I would say it's really building the city of the future, not avoiding the problems, whether it's homelessness or traffic, but saying, look, you're not going to solve this just in 8 years. But with something like Measure M, imagine building 15 new rail lines, transit lines in the city, going after the Olympics, finally bringing public transportation to the airport, recycling 100% of our water so that a drought isn't a drought for us, 100% renewable power, a minimum wage that's $15 before anybody else, free community college, soon free transit. I mean, I go on, but this has been an unprecedented time of investment. And if you ask mayors from around the country and around the world, when they come here and they see what we're spending on infrastructure, on transportation, on jobs, I think it blows them away. And I can't wait for 2028 when the Olympics come, because I think we'll see what these investments, how they'll pay off when the world comes to
I wish we could do the Olympics here now. I mean,
we probably could do it. And we could have crowds right now.
Right.
I half jokingly said we could do it with 2 months' notice. So.
Yeah. So what do you see, though, as the biggest regret?
You know, look, the biggest regret I have is that during this time, during the pandemic, it pushed us back a year or two. It pushed our progress back on fighting against homelessness, crime. We've seen, not just in Los Angeles, but homicides go up. Even as crime has gone down, it's still the safest city that we've experienced in our lifetime. We've seen gun violence go up about 25% in homicides this year. But those aren't regrets. I don't live with regret or guilt. Running a city, you're always going to face challenges and problems you can't solve overnight. You're always going to face criticisms. The headlines of today are the noise of tomorrow. I say to my staff, think about yourselves 10 years from now. Did you make the right decision today? Because most of the work we do, we'll see 10 years after we do it. And by that measure, I'm really proud of the city we're building, this imperfect paradise that doesn't sugarcoat its problems, but that embraces its role of leading.
How do you think this job changed you?
Oh, gosh. You know, the job is so demanding, you don't grow a lot as a person. But I think I've learned a lot as a leader. I've learned to not ask permission or forgiveness, to jump into an emergency, whether it's a fire or a pandemic, to think about the future. Even when people say things like, why are we paying extra to fortify our buildings, but we know an earthquake's coming? Don't think about governance as a day-to-day thing. I've learned, always think about the long term. And probably the second lesson I've learned is don't take yourself too seriously. Take the work seriously, but don't take yourself seriously. One person will say, Mayor, you're the most amazing saint I've ever met. They don't really know you, and don't listen too much. Thank them for it.
Right.
And then somebody else says, you're the worst piece of junk I've ever met. And they don't know you either. I wish that we could all be a little kinder to each other, that we could humanize each other more, and not just those of us that are in positions of authority, but I want good people to continue to serve. And so I hope that we will continue as a city to just forgive one another a little bit more, give each other a little bit more kindness, and it's certainly something that got us through this pandemic.
Lastly, and just speaking of not taking yourself too seriously, I mean, we've had some fun with playing the piano.
Elex and the mayor.
And throwing the baseball around at Dodger
Got my
Stadium.
piano right here in the office. You want to
go? I remember when you almost ran for president.
Yep.
You said that you wrote your daughter a letter, and that she might open years down the road. When you think about talking to her about this time, what's the lesson to your daughter about your time as mayor?
I would say to my beloved Maya, and I still do write her about once every 6 months or every year, a letter. I'd say, in life, you have to lead with love and do your best. Make yourself worthy of making a difference. I thought I'd maybe run for city council and lose and maybe serve a term or two. It's been 20 years now, 2 decades, that this city that I love second only to my family, that I've been able to give back to. And I would tell her, make a difference in this world and find happiness. I've been honored to help make a difference alongside so many Angelinos. And I look forward to finding happiness. It has made me absolutely happy, but it's also been, I've given everything to the city. Every Saturday, every Sunday, every late night, every emergency. And I think balance is so important. And that is what will get us through life, and certainly has gotten me through these days.
Well, Mayor, I know in this role I'm not allowed to endorse candidates or politicians, but I endorse kindness, and I'm so appreciative for almost 20 years of kindness. And congratulations to you.
I appreciate it.
Look forward to talking to you along the way.
And thank you for modeling it as well.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Mayor.
Yep.
And my first interview with Mayor Eric Garcetti in this building behind me was nearly 20 years ago. I was a freshman journalism student at USC, and he was a new member of the LA City Council. And it's pretty incredible, Marla, to think of this building without him. For my entire career, he's been working here, and now it seems like he's going to be a half a world away.
I think it's important to reiterate the fact that the Senate confirmation could take months. So just because this announcement happened today, Elex, doesn't mean that he's going to be leaving the building behind you tonight.
Right. Yeah. He says he's committed to staying out there. I mean, it's been sort of strange the last few months with this thought that maybe he's going to leave. And every time he shows up, you think about India and you wonder that. And now he's essentially going to be a lame duck mayor for the next few months.
All right. Well, well done and good get on that interview today, Elex.
Thank you.